Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in date about Kagurabachi, chapter number 96. This chapter is titled Urgency. And yes, it is at this point the bi-monthly occurrence where I'm like, hey guys, I am really sorry, but I was busy this past Sunday, and also it has been midterm week at my college, which means that, well, yeah, I just really haven't had a whole lot of time to sit down and make Kagurabachi videos whenever I want to, pretty much. And because of that, hey, you're getting this video 5 or so days late after the chapter dropped. Again, my bad, but at a certain point, what else am I supposed to do? School always comes more important than me making videos about Kagurabachi, and as much as I love doing and making videos about Kagurabachi and other manga and anime series, sometimes I just have other things that I need to get done. And I also say the reason I have not made a video is because I'm actually working on a very special project about Kagurabachi. It should be coming out soon. I was hoping to get it out a week ago, but who would have thought? Logo design and then animating a logo is very, very hard. The video has already been filmed. It was very actually easy to film, probably one of the easiest videos I've ever had to film before. And then the rest of it is oh, the logistics, they're terrible, right? But all of that sat down and aside. Today we're talking about Kagurabachi, chapter number 96. This chapter is titled Urgency. And this chapter is a really big one for Kagurabachi, and really just for the series in general. For the main fact of hey, not only did Kagurabachi have the Weekly Shonen Magazine cover this week, is or the Weekly Shonen Jump. Weekly Shonen Magazine is a different thing, but the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine cover this week, which means that we not only got a really nice illustration from Hokuzono, pretty much. I'll flash it up on screen here real quick. It's pretty much Chihiro in a suit and Hakuri in a suit. I love how they also have different colored suits. Hey, Chihiro's got this black suit and Haku's got this white suit on, and they're just walking towards the camera pretty much. And oh my gosh, there's a bunch of flowers around a yellow background. Looks really, really nice. And all things considered, a really great magazine cover for the second anniversary of Kagurabachi, right? With that, we have the color page of this chapter as well, which I'm going to just go ahead and talk about right now. It's really cool because it's hey, we get pretty much Chihiro in the middle of the frame here, and then all around him are all the other big villains who he's had to face down so far in the series of Kagurabachi. And it's really awesome because on one hand, oh man, Sojo's right there. That's really cool. We also see Kiora, Soya, Nakarasu Madoka, the Dharma sorcerer guy. We also see Hirohiko, Kagiri. We see the two Oni mask sorcerers that whenever Chihiro was fighting them, Azami came in and pretty much made them run away. We see all of the road sign people who are that molding road thing or whatever. We really don't know too much about them. They were just big easy fodder for Chihiro to deal with early on in the series, pretty much, right? But either way, this was just oh my gosh, a really cool color page we get here. But the Kagurabachi news legitimately does not stop here. I do not remember if it was since this chapter came out or if it was last video. I think it came out before last video, but if I didn't mention it then, I'll mention it right now. We had the Volume 9 cover release. Hey, it's pretty cool. It's just Chihiro's face in the middle of it. I think I had it for last video. I don't know if I referenced it though. My bad. It's been 2 weeks since I recorded a Kagurabachi video. Please do not get mad at me, pretty much, right? But in other news, Kagurabachi has had a very fascinating collaboration also happened since I did the last chapter view. And that is the Kagurabachi, and I'm not kidding you, the Kagurabachi X Burger King. Yes, Burger King. You heard me correctly. The place you go to get a Whopper. Yes, Kagurabachi has collaborated with a Burger King, and I'm pretty sure it's in Shibuya in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. Or I've seen a few posts on Twitter about people being hey, I went to the Kagurabachi Burger King today. And it's a really cool thing. So it's set up the Rokuhira house, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen this one big picture going around. It's hey, of course, Chihiro, all of the goldfish of Kuro, Akka, and Nishiki are all flowing around on the decals all over the store. But there's also the sword storehouse, of course, wherever Rokuhira kept all of the enchanted blades. Hey, the Shinuchi's in that box up there in the corner, right? There's the Kume-yori, there's the Cloud Gouger, there's the Magatsumi, and then there's the Tobi-Mune, pretty much. Just I'm pretty sure I pointed out Shinuchi and Magatsumi twice, whatever. I promise you, I know the series I'm talking about here, right? But either way, through all of that, it is a very fascinating collaboration of oh my gosh, you can get a Burger King meal with Kagurabachi. Like, it's just a cool thing, and of course, I know they're never going to bring that anywhere else. It's like a specialty thing over there just in Japan for the big movement and growth of the series. But it's just still like a really cool thing, and if you ever bring it to the East Coast of the United States, I do not care how far I have to drive. I will drive there. Granted, I am very lucky to live like almost smack dab in the middle of the East Coast. I live in North Carolina, so like it's not exactly the middle, but to get like all the way down to Florida or to get all the way up to like New York is like, I guess like the two main places. Like, I mean, of course it's probably going to happen on like LA or like on the West Coast somewhere where it's like, yeah, that's never happening. I'm never going to get over there. But like, if they brought it to New York, I would definitely take a day trip to New York for the first time in my life and go to the Kagurabachi Burger King, right? But all of that Kagurabachi news out of the way, what are you guys all here for? The Kagurabachi chapter number 96, titled Urgency. Now, last time in Kagurabachi, it was a little bit of a weird chapter with a very big elephant in the room that we had to address, which was like, hey, Hokuzono is very obviously being pushed to his limit with all of these collaborations going on, all of these color pages. Oh, I even forgot to mention, like, there was a Kagurabachi in My Hero Academia, like, Takeru Hokuzono and Kohei Horikoshi, the two of them, like, swapped artwork of each other, right? Which is a really cool thing. Now, I may get crucified a little bit here, and I'll put both images up on screen, not only the one that Takeru Hokuzono drew, which was, like, hey, his take on Deku from My Hero Academia, and also, like, hey, here's Horikoshi's take of Chihiro, and it's just a really cool set of artworks that we got, but don't crucify me. I'm not in love with either of these drawings, right? I'm actually going to just, like, pull them up one more time for me to see them real quick, because it's like, I should have the reference whenever I describe them here, but, Kagurabachi X My Hero Academia, fan fiction. I don't know if I like that. But either way, yeah, it's just this image where we see, like, Chihiro walking through, drawn by Horikoshi, and behind him is the fish of Nishiki. Like, it actually looks like a fish. It's a little weird, pretty much, seeing it drawn this way, not the way that Hokuzono normally draws fishes. But pretty much Chihiro is just, like, stained in blood. He's got, like, two swords on him, and he's just holding a sword as he's walking determined towards some spot. It's definitely a nice artwork, but, like, I can also tell it's drawn by Horikoshi, but just, like, knowing Horikoshi's other work, like, mainly My Hero Academia, and I've read a little bit of what was that work he did about animals and stuff? I'm not really 100% sure, but it's a good artwork right there. Like, nothing really too weird about it. But as a big My Hero guy, Takeru Hokuzono, stick to Kagurabachi. Don't go off drawing more My Hero Academia, like, fan fiction or whatever, because, like, I don't know. I think it's mainly just Chihiro, or not Chihiro, but Deku's eyes that Hokuzono drew that really just, like, takes me out of it. Like, I just don't know. It's like, I don't know if it's the expression on his face, like the way the freckles are drawn, or what about it really is, but it's definitely a good artwork, and, like, I can't do this. Like, there's no reason I should be complaining about any of this, and I'm not complaining. It's just like, yeah, I don't really know. This isn't particularly my thing, but at the same time, does it really also need to be my thing? But sort of is what it is there. It's just really cool that these two swapped arts with each other. And we also learned a fun fact. I promise we are only 8 minutes into this video. I will get to Kagurabachi at some point, right? But we also learned for the first draft of the first chapter of Kagurabachi, Horikoshi actually sat down and reviewed it and gave suggestions to make the first chapter as good as it could be, which is really awesome. My Hero Academia was the first manga series I covered on this YouTube channel, so to learn all of these things and its relationship to Kagurabachi is just insanely awesome. Of course, we knew that Horikoshi had recommended Kagurabachi whenever the first volumes dropped. Like, it was this whole big thing where, like, Gege Akutami of Jujutsu Kaisen and Kohei Horikoshi of My Hero Academia recommended the two new Weekly Shonen Jump series, one of them being Kagurabachi, and the other one of them was a series called Mama Yu Yu at the time. Granted, Mama Yu Yu did not get the traction Kagurabachi did. That series ended in like 30 chapters or something like that, but it was still like, hey, that was a series that started the week before Kagurabachi did, which for all of you Kagurabachi fans, it's a little bit of an interesting lore thing right there, right? But either way, finally getting to Kagurabachi chapter number 96. No more false starts. We're going to sit down and talk about this chapter here. I was talking about what happened last time before I got sidetracked. Hokuzono had some very rough sketch art, and we're going to see that again in this chapter of Kagurabachi as well, because, like, hey, yeah, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. Hokuzono has not been able to fully draw these chapters like he wants to, right? But either way, last chapter what we had ended up happening was this whole thing about like, hey, Azami is getting ready to join the battle between Yura, Natsuki, and Iruha, right? There's a little bit of a thing where like Kasten was explaining his entire reasons for working with the Ashaku and why he's been doing all of this various stuff that of course we as readers think is a pretty bad thing, right? And throughout all of this, Azami just came through and like punched Kasten straight in the face, leaving him and like, hey Ichiki, you interrogate him, you figure out all of the things. I am going to currently deal with the big ongoing threat downstairs, pretty much, right? And we ended last chapter with Azami just getting ready to come in and beat the ever-loving crap out of Yura. And that's where we ended off last chapter of Kagurabachi, right? Well, we open up this one as we see we're back upstairs, wherever Ichiki is pretty much talking with a few of the, like, just general Kabunabi guys. And he pretty much like just turns around and just turns to this random fodder guy and just is like, hey, you there, summon Shiba and Hyuki to headquarters real quick. And this like guy, we don't even see what his face looks like we just see like the two cross lines for like the template of drawing a face. Hokuzono could not draw this guy's face. It is whatever, right? But we just see that Ichiki, if this guy's like, hey, but what are you talking about? Ichiki's like, hey, it doesn't matter. We can get by with the minimal security for all the other sword bears. If they kill the sword master, then the eternal contracts will kill the other bears too. We need to stop them no matter what. Of course, the eternal dilemma of Kagurabachi right now, if the sword saint dies, then what actually happens? All of the enchanted blade users die, and we have a lot of really big problems on our hand, right? Well, either way, as Azami walks into the room to pretty much see what's going on with Yura, Hokuto, Natsuki, and Iruha, we see that the battle has temporarily paused as everybody is pretty much looking up to the ceiling. And mainly Azami is one who gets this context from, just looking up like, oh, this presence. As we just see an image of two of the enchanted blades, of course, Enten and Tobi Mune. And of course, Iruha here in a moment just thinks, oh, Mr. Samura. So he's just like, hey, Chihiro, you did it, and the two of them may be nearby, and they're together. Mr. Iruha and Chihiro will be here soon. Like, hey, it's this little bit of a nice glory thing of like, hey, Iruha and Samura may be united after all of this stuff that happened a few chapters ago, right? But either way, Azami just says down to both Iruha and Natsuki being like, hey, he's going to use the Shinuchi's powers. He intends to kill the Swordmaster. In any case, we can't let him move freely, right? As you see, Iruha's like, hey, but why are you going to do that? But Azami's like, hey, the two of them will arrive soon. And until then, we will hold him off here. As we just see Iruha scans the room, of course, wherever they're currently fighting Yura, and he just thinks like, man, so that was the Shinuchi's power. And I guess this is where Chihiro's centipede move came from. And in that case, as Iruha scans the room, he notices one of the pillars isn't fully destroyed. As we see Iruha just like yells up to Azami being like, hey, Mr. Azami, and Azami's like, yeah, I already got it, Iruha, and he's like, hey, Natsuki, and Natsuki's like, hey, dumb, not that dumb, like, shut up, don't talk to me, guy, pretty much, right? But either way, we see that Azami gets ready to hop down to the battlefield, but before he does, he just holds up his right hand, and a little bit of electricity just sparks out from in between his fingers, as he just says, coin, as he mimics the motion of flipping an invisible coin in his hands. And as he does this, we see that the lightning forms into two coins here in the moment. As we sort of just see that Yura looks over and says like, oh, sorcery, right? And he's like, a coin, are we gambling? I always enjoy gambling pretty much. Like, yeah, we know you traumatized like an old guy like almost 10 chapters ago because like, yeah, you really love gambling pretty much, right? Honestly, I think it would still be cool if Yura had some sort of sorcery to do with gambling in some sort of way, but I really doubt that at this point pretty much, right? But either way, Azami just is like, hey, that's Yura, that is the Hashaku's leader. I'm pretty sure he was also at the Rakuzaichi. And he just says like, hey, I'm not surprised, but it's nothing but risky pretty much, right? As he just remembers, that right there is the man behind Rokuhira's death. as all of a sudden, Azami just disappears out of nowhere. As we see that he now joins the fray, Iruha is holding his sword in his hand using the EI White Purity style. Natsuki is dual-wielding his swords, going around, cutting the ever-loving crap out of Yura, or at least trying to. And Azami has appeared, electricity trickling around him, as they're all just going around and fighting each other, right? Of course, they are still in this library, and the fountain in the middle of the room has been long since destroyed, so water covers the bottom of the room, as everybody is just going around and fighting with each other, right? But at this point, we now cut back upstairs to wherever Ichiki is. As we just see the Ichiki, we honestly get like a really cool frame shot of him as well, as Ichiki's just like looking up towards the ceiling, and like the camera is looking down over top Ichiki pretty much, right? As Ichiki just thinks like, hey, Tobimune and Inten, I sense the presence of both enchanted blades above us. But why aren't they coming in right away? With Tobimune's powers, they should be able to teleport right to where the two of us are, pretty much, right? As we see just like some random father sorcerer runs in again, the same one who Ichiki was talking to earlier, and just says like, hey, Mr. Ichiki, and Ichiki's like, hey, did you contact the two of them? Of course, talking about Shiba and Hyuki, and this guy's like, no, I can't get through, and Ichiki's like, what are you talking about? As he suddenly realizes what's going on here, as he walks over to Kasen and just is like, oh, so it's a force field, is it? You did something to it. As of course, Kasen is laying against a wall, like his half his face almost like completely covered in blood, as he's just like, yes, amidst all of the confusion, my comrades did good work. Now we're cut off from the outside. As Ichiki just thinks like, hey, did they modify it to prevent the Inten and Tobimune from entering? 2 enchanted blades, is that really possible? And he's like, no, wait a second. The original settings repel all sorcerers who aren't Kamunabi. To apply that to the Inten and Tobimune, they'd have to focus the entire capacity against those 2 blades. As Ichiki now just speaks out loud saying like, hey, and even if it did work, it wouldn't take long for Samura and company to break straight through. Only a few minutes at most. As we just see that Kasen's like, but everything hinges on a few minutes. As we come back downstairs, like, hey, there's a big fight going on. Now it's a 1v3 pretty much, right? Yura, Hokuto, no, not, it's Yura, Natsuki, Iruha, and Azami all going at it. As we see that downstairs, Yura just proclaims the words, Centipede, getting ready to use that move of the Magatsumi's powers once more. And upstairs, Kasen just says, the sorcerers here are pretty much defenseless. You know this. With the Shinuchi's powers, a few minutes is plenty of time to wreak total obliteration. As we just see here in the moment, both Iruha and Natsuki are collapsed on top of bookshelves, getting completely taken out by all of the moves here in this moment. And Kasen just says like, hey, you witnessed it at the Rakuzaichi. Even Inten and the Flamebone together could barely stand up to it. Sorcerers bearing conventional weapons have no hope of even buying a bit of time. As at this point, we fully cut away from Kasen, back down to the area where Yura just used Centipede. And we see as they're standing in the fountain in the middle of the room, Azami stands perfectly fine behind Yura. As we just see that Azami is standing in this stance, a fist held out in front of him, another fist right by his side. As we just see Yura's like, did he resist the Centipede? And he's like, no. Centipede attacks all around, but there's a little bit of a gap where the force is weaker. It's right behind the wielder. Just now, only the pillar behind him survived. And like Cloud Gouger's May, there's a recovery period for the Centipede as well. And this is all what Iruha is thinking here in the moment, sort of like understanding all this. And of course, like, hey, Natsuki and Azami also figured out this by seeing Yura's move earlier, right? As Azami just thinks like, hey, Aruha and Natsuki understood it instantly. They use themselves as bait to lure Centipede and allow me to take shelter behind Yura. As Azami just thinks, Chihiro and Samura still haven't arrived. Something must be keeping them wherever they are. But it doesn't matter. My job is the same. As we just see Yura turn around to look to where Azami is, and he's like, oh, you're just buying time. As suddenly, Azami just completely disappears, almost like lightning traveling away in an instant, pretty much, right? As Azami sort of runs up right behind Yura, getting ready to attack him from behind, as Yura just thinks like, oh, he's somehow faster now. Could it be a physical augmentation spell like Aruha's? But no matter. As we see, Yura holds out his right arm, it's his right arm, and pretty much holds it his palm facing back towards Azami, and he just says, Dragonfly, as we see almost the 4 wings of a dragonfly sprout out of Yura's arm and just go through and completely destroy Azami's hands here in the moment. They get bent every single which way. Honestly, calling back to My Hero Academia, we talked about that series earlier. It just really reminds me whenever early in that series, whenever Deku uses One for All, how his fingers get like all broken and bloodied and beaten. It really is that same visual that I see here whenever, they do the thing pretty much, right? Azami's fingers go every which way, blood explodes out pretty much, right? As Yura's just like, hey, don't bother. Without the enchanted blades, you don't stand a chance. And as he says this, he looks around and he notices a little bit of a buzzing going on. As we see, there's a few coins made out of electrical energy, of course, the energy that, we saw Azami using earlier. We see these coins are pretty much flowing all around Yura. And Yura's like, oh, what's this? As we see his body starts to shake and vibrate a little bit. And as this happens, we now cut to a television screen, as we see an advertisement is currently playing. And we see the advertisement is just going, hey, amazing health benefits from everyday objects. Today we will present our special secret recipe. It's the 11 yin treatment. Simply tape the 2 coins to the affected area for amazing results. As with that television ad, we also just get a little bit of narration. It's a well-known home remedy. The different ionization characteristics of 2 different metals produce a faint electrical current. It regulates the electrical currents within the body to relieve tension and muscle pain. The technique was popularized by a certain local doctor. The rumor has it he was able to utilize the intrinsic electrical current in coins to cure even serious illnesses. However, the true secret was sorcery passed down through the Azami lineage over generations. As we see, this clinic was the Azami Clinic. Of course, hey, it's Azami's family name, Azami. Hey, it all works out at the end of the day, right? As we also get a little bit of narration saying, hey, at least until a certain hot-blooded only son of the family adopted the sorcery for combat. As we also just see here in the moment, the doctor, presumably Azami's father, is just making all of these coins fly around his hands pretty much, right? Almost orbiting around it using the electrical currents. And we also then just see the image of this father presumably yelling at Azami, being like, hey, how dare you bastardize our heritage, you stupid brat. Get out now, right? But either way, the narration just continues saying, hey, on one hand, the power could be used to accelerate the user's blood circulation, enhancing physical performance. But on the other, it could intensify and stimulate the muscle fibers of an opponent. As we see here in the moment, all of the coins are just going around Yura, and we see all of the electrical signals are sort of traveling into Yura's body and tensing up all of his various muscles, really making it so that he is unable to move. And here in the moment, all of these coins end up doing their damage, as we just see blood splurt out from all of these areas of his body. Of course, hey, Yura's trying to move, the muscles are tensing up, not letting him move, so of course they are breaking up a little bit here in the moment, right? And we just see Azami's eyes. There's almost like this faint electrical current coming out from them as well. Really reminiscent of whenever we see Natsuki use his Lightning Menace ability. Very much the same thing there, right? As Yura is just like, oh, so he was bluffing when he pretended that he was unarmed. And he's just like, oh, sorcery is his true strength. But is that all he can do? As of course, Azami's arm is also getting torn apart still by that dragonfly move. As here in the moment, Azami just looks straight at Yura and he's like, hey, don't worry. My real strength is actually my fists. As we see here in a moment, Azami goes through and clinches his bloodied, falling apart hand together. And he just goes through, rushes in towards Yura, and in this amazing panel here to end off the chapter, it's honestly really cool because like this shakily drawn art style to Hokuzono not being very well here in a moment. It's just a really cool sketched panel of Azami just going through and punching Yura straight in his left side as he just goes through, completely careening through. As he just punches Yura, and Yura has to like step back and recoil a bit like, with a broken arm? As we just see Iruha looking towards Azami, just cracking a massive smile pretty much. As Azami just says like, oh, are you good with this? Chilling out here with us for so long? And Yura is just coughing up more blood, and he just is like, and that's where we end this chapter of Kagurabachi. Now, this was just a great chapter of Kagurabachi through and through, and honestly, I did not expect to be getting a Azami lore dump this week, but it does make a whole lot of sense. He has been a main character in the, I'm not going to say a main character, but he's been a major supporting character in Kagurabachi since like chapter number 7 or whenever he was initially introduced, right? And finally going through and seeing him fight after like, hey, we saw him in Threat Elimination Grounds, he didn't actually really do anything there that we saw on camera, right? But just going through and how he's able to actually stand up to Yura using his family sorcery that like, hey, it was supposed to be used for medical purposes, but you also have to remember, the chainsaw was also originally created for medical purposes, and you see what it does now pretty much, right? Pretty much taking that same idea and using it in coins, so it's just a really cool thing. And of course, like, I have also heard of this 11 yen treatment before, like, unless just, like, made it up in my head that I've heard of this before, like, I'm certain, like, this is an actual thing, like, the Japanese go and, like, they'll tape, like, these coins, like, either side of, like, their wrist or whatever, and it, like, helps alleviate wrist pain, or, like, I'm pretty sure it's actually, like, a common remedy that people use, and not something that Hokuzono just made up here, but something that he took, and then based the character's power off of, pretty much, right? But this is a really cool thing, not only understanding, like, hey, Azami's family clinic as well, and also, I would be very, like, reminiscent if I didn't also make reference to the Kagurabachi memes. Of course, one of my favorite Kagurabachi memes is like, hey, we killed your dad for 50 bucks and a lighter, right? And now, look at this. Hey, Azami is beating Yura with just, like, spare change, right? Like, he's allergic to money. He's so broke, pretty much, right? Just a lot of really funny a lot of really funny jokes you can make about this chapter of Kagurabachi. And all things considered, it was a great chapter. Now, of course, their art is still very, very sketchy, and while there are some really nice panels, you can also see the classic method that Hokuzono uses, like, hey, there's a few reused panels in this chapter. Really, I don't think there's too many in the early stages. Like, there may be a few, like, just, like, seeing Iruha's eyes very close up, and I also see that there's a very, very cleanly drawn panel of Azami on the top of page 5. So I honestly can see where that may have been reused from some point, because I feel like currently Azami's look is a little bit different than what we see in this image here on the top panel of page 5. But also going through, whenever Kasen is like up against the wall, we see that panel used like 3 times in this chapter pretty much, right? And even, like, the very final image of this chapter is the same one of Yura just, like, summoning all of the Magatsumi centipedes around him. But he's just got a little bit more blood on him now, right? But I'm not knocking Hokuzono for that. He is way too overworked, and for some reason, we are getting a chapter of this series next week. Like, I understand, like, this will all get cleaned up in a volume version, but, like, Hokuzono, take care of yourself, man. Like, I don't want to read Kagurabachi next week if it means that you just, like, don't get more sleep, man. Like, I love this series, and to love this series, I need to love and care about your well-being as well, pretty much, right? But either way, just a good chapter of Kagurabachi. I have now been recording for over 30 minutes, mainly like, hey, the first 10 minutes of this video were all like, hey, here's all the Kagurabachi news going on right now. Do you want to get a Whopper meal with Kagurabachi? Well, you sure can, right? I'm pretty sure, like, you can even get, like, a PayPal debit card now in Japan with Kagurabachi on it, but, like, all of that besides the point. If you did enjoy this video on Kagurabachi chapter number 96, again, titled, what was this chapter titled? I totally forgot. Urgency. It's a bit of an urgent matter that Chihiro and Samura get into the building. I'll give it to them pretty much, right? But I hope you enjoyed this video on this chapter of Kagurabachi. If you did, I've covered this series since, like, chapter number 46 of the series, so, like, I've talked about a lot of Kagurabachi chapters pretty much since the beginning of the Sword Bear assassination arc. So you want to hear, like, any of my thoughts on any of those chapters? Like, hey, the one where Samura, like, descended from the sky with the crow rings, I've got that video on the channel. Do you want to hear my thoughts about whenever Ruha got killed by Samura? I've got that video on the channel. Do you want to hear my thoughts on the Sojo bonus chapters? Those videos are also on the channel as well. I cover plenty of other anime manga related content as well, so all of that will just be linked in the description box of this video, and also just go to YouTube at Glowplasma. But yeah, with all of that out of the way, I will hopefully see you guys soon for another Kagurabachi chapter number 97 review, and also be on the lookout, because I've got a pretty special project coming in the works, also known as Kagurabachi and Coffee. And with all of those various words, I'll sign you guys off there. I'll catch you guys next time. This will be Glowplasma signing out.